Hi, I'm Michele Goodman. I'm the Director of Animal Care here at the Elmwood Park Zoo in Norristown, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the Rossifari podcast. Y'all, this is an episode that I've been looking forward to recording for a long time. Y'all know I love Elmwood Park Zoo, and I've been going there so many times. We've done so many cool episodes there. I got to get over my fear of tarantulas there. Slash, the best red panda lives there. Just so much good stuff from Elmwood Park Zoo. But there's been one guest that I have been waiting on and hoping to get on, and that is Michele Goodman. Now, Michele is the vet at the zoo. You heard her fancy title at the beginning, but I got to know her just as the veterinarian there, and she does so much amazing work at the zoo that I was just waiting for the right opportunity to get her on. And it turns out the zoo has opened a brand new welcome center, which includes a new commissary and a new veterinary hospital, meaning that she had no choice. She had to come on and talk to me about the new veterinary hospital at the zoo. So we have a really good time with this one. It was so nice to catch up with an old friend and just chat about all the cool new things happening at the zoo. And you may notice this is the second week in a row that we have an episode about, some new stuff going on at a facility, and that's going to continue next week as well. I love being able to bring cool breaking news stuff as interview episodes as zoos continue to expand and grow. It's amazing the work that these facilities do and what goes into creating new places at already incredible facilities to make them even more incredible. I almost said incredibler, but that would be wrong. But yeah, so I'm really excited to have Michele on, and Michelle's not the only one on here because, of course, since she is a veterinarian, I had to bring my wife, Dr. Zoe Rossi, along, and she asks some good questions as well. So it's fun to hear the vets chatting while I just sit in the background wondering, why I didn't go to vet school. No, I'm not. Nobody is wondering that. But hey, before we get to the interview, couple quick things. Make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of these interview episodes or any of my Friday Zoo News episodes. Make sure you're following along on the socials at Rossifari and on TikTok at Rossifari Pod. And don't forget that you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari. So with all of that said, I think it's time. So here is my interview with Michele Goodman of Elmwood Park Zoo. You do so much here that we, Zoe and I, have started referring to this place as the Michelmwood Park Zoo.
That's true. Oh, good.
It is true, yeah.
Fantastic.
And so I've been excited to have you on the pod for a while now. We've been trying to find a time to do this. So thank you for making this happen. And specifically, we're here to celebrate a bunch of cool stuff that's going on at the zoo right now. There's some new stuff here, including a new vet hospital. So let's start off talking about all of that. And I know that my listeners know that master planning is a thing. And so how long ago was this now incredible building thought of, and what was the plan to get here?
So the hospital project started before I started at the zoo in 2017.
Okay.
It has existed in various forms kind of all over the zoo's campus. The zoo started to do a real master plan in 2019, which was then put on hold as a result of COVID. And then in the spring of 2021, we were given this amazing and very generous gift from Frank and Paige Engro, and that sort of kicked off real intense planning to make the hospital really happen.
That's very cool. And it's not just a hospital that is new, but it is, I guess they're all connected, but it's a hospital in a like welcome center area.
And commissary.
In Commissary, yes. Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to do with our master plan and with the new hospital is to sort of bring the hospital to the forefront of the zoo, to let everybody that comes through know what goes into our animal care program, and to let them actually get to see some of the work that we do. So it was important to, have the hospital be at the entrance to the zoo so that literally everybody that comes through the doors gets to walk by and see our setup for both, veterinary care as well as for animal nutrition. And then we also added in other things that, we were looking to do, which is exhibits focused specifically on conservation needs, as well as a new gift shop, and then administrative offices, which are not just for the vet team, but for all of our administrative departments. They have their own floor upstairs. So it all kind of came together in one really big project.
That's pretty incredible. It's really trippy coming here now, having come here for so many years and the old entrance and, having gotten married at a place that no longer exists in the same way. It's very cool to see how far this part of the zoo has come.
Yeah, and we're hoping to just kind of keep rolling down the main path with 4 or 5 additional projects that are currently in the pipeline to essentially rebuild most of the zoo in the next 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, which is really exciting, and I know y'all have a lot of land to use too. So it's not just, a lot of zoos are very constrained by, Cincinnati Zoo is in the city of Cincinnati. There's not another inch that zoo can have. But y'all have some plans to expand, which is pretty exciting.
Yes, we have an additional 40 acres across Stony Creek that we're going to probably develop about 20 of for, new animal exhibits and experiences, as well as helping to connect the Schuylkill Bike Trail, which is a big feature in Montgomery County.
Nice. Very cool. So what does this hospital mean to you as far as being a veterinarian and the care that you're able to provide to animals here?
So when I started, we were in a bit of a closet. It was myself, part-time veterinarian, and two licensed veterinary technicians. And we were pretty confined to about, 200, 300 square feet. And that was where we did everything, which meant that we went out into the zoo quite often, to go to the animals exhibits, because we often had more space there than we did in our own office. So over the years, we made some adjustments to the clinic. We got some new, a grant for some cabinetry and some additional equipment. And then knowing that the hospital was coming, most of our capital purchase focus has been on portable equipment. Figuring that, we wanted to be able to get stuff that we could use immediately that could also kind of grow into the new hospital. But for moving from about a 300 square foot closet into an 18,000 square foot hospital and quarantine space has been pretty surreal. Thankfully we all like each other on the vet team, so we're used to working in close quarters. And now it's strange to be in my own office and to have the vet techs are in their own office, and we now have a full-time associate veterinarian, which has been really critical to expanding our, coverage and care capabilities. And then, moving into the new space, we have equipment that other zoos in the area don't have. So it'll actually allow us to kind of return the favor that we've been, getting help from so many other facilities for many years, to be able to say, hey, come to Elmwood, if you need a CT scan for a penguin.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's one thing that I've always loved about this area, the Philly type area, is that there are so many incredible AZA facilities here.
Yeah, we have quite a lot. And we try to maintain, good working relationships with everybody. because we all share the same, the same goal for educating people and for taking really good care of animals.
Yeah. So what has your journey been like? Like, I know obviously you're a vet, so I'm assuming that you went to vet school. Not
I did.
faking it till you made it.
I did.
So, okay,
yeah,
good, good. So what, like, did you know when you were like little tiny Michele that you wanted to work with animals, and like what got you to where you are?
No, little tiny Michele was going to be an architect.
Okay.
And then I ended up in art school doing printmaking and creative writing. And then I started to volunteer over at the Schuylkill Wildlife Rehab Clinic in Roxborough. And that was where I started to really work with wildlife. And from there, I had to take some courses to then get back on track for a pre-vet program because art school didn't really cover a lot of those prereqs.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, it was interesting. And then I met my husband and moved to Connecticut for a couple of years to do a master's degree while I worked at a captive breeding facility for mostly waterfowl. And then many years later, ended up going to veterinary school. So before that, I did a lot of work with native wildlife, mostly birds. And then when I finished up at Penn, I did, kind of the more typical thing and went out into private practice. I was at a large small animal and exotics practice up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania for about a year when my husband actually took a job as the curator of birds at the Philadelphia Zoo. So that brought us back down to the area. I grew up, 20 minutes from here. My parents still live, in the house that I grew up in.
That's cool.
So it was a little bit of a scenic route. And I thought when I got out of school that I would try to go back into, more wildlife rehabilitation, because that is something I'm very passionate about. But I've really found a home, here at the zoo. It's a really wonderful animal care team. And, I love that every day is different at a zoo.
Yeah, no, of course. Not to mention that, along with the incredible animal care team, you also have the best red panda.
We do.
At any zoo anywhere.
We do. We have Slash.
Yeah,
Slash the red panda. He is the world's best red panda.
It's a given. And anyone
Sorry to other red pandas.
No, it is known.
Yeah.
It is known. Yeah. And, anyone who listens or even just follows the socials knows Slashy Slash. And so any updates on Slash? How's my boy doing?
He just turned 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he turned 10, which makes me feel a little bit old.
Wow.
But yeah, he's such a great red panda. We're so lucky to have him.
Yeah. I know Miles is obsessed, my son, and he also just turned 10.
Oh, no way.
And that's one of the things that I know Miles first connected with, Slash was like, how old is he? And I was like, how old are you? And
that's so cute.
Yeah, very cool. One of my proudest Papa moments was we were at the Slash, habitat at some point, and this kid was like, I want one as a pet, just a young kid, just being a kid. And Miles just goes, excuse me, red pandas do not make good pets. They have sharp claws and they poop a lot and they're endangered, but they're great to look at here. And I was like, yes, I did something right.
That's amazing. Pretty soon he'll be old enough to come and work here.
Yeah, right. It's crazy to think. So glad that Slash is doing well.
Yes, he's great.
Yes. He's great. And so let's talk a little bit more. So you said that your team has expanded recently, right?
Yes.
And I'm so intrigued by what your thoughts are about, obviously the level of care that has been given here has always been great. When you guys were hiding in a closet and occasionally having broom stuck in by accident, you're still doing amazing work. But all of this expansion, how is that helping the animals?
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
So there's a couple of key things that we have now that we did not before. And one is really nice, dedicated animal holding space. And we just talked about it last week when we were getting some weather. Stony Creek has a tendency to flood out, as it has done many times. John, actually, you came to help us with the cleanup after the storm in 2020. So we have, emergency contingency plans where if we're getting, a certain level of rain or if water comes, to a certain level, we'll move some animals around. And it used to be very much a, okay, who can go here? Where can we fit another animal? Where can we move them, short term? And it was a very different meeting that we had last week because it was like, oh, we have all this new quarantine space. So you can move up here. Here's your spot. Here's your spot. Here's your spot. Even the alligator and the otters have space to come up here. And it's kind of ready to go for them with very short notice. So that was really nice to think about. And it's like, oh, if we have a problem, we've got this really nice new quarantine space that has built-in pools for animals that need it, that can house, anything from a small bird up to a jaguar. It's not really big enough for zebras or giraffes, so they can stay put. But that's really nice. We have been using our trail of the jaguar building to house animals intermittently. / went up there after a storm a couple years ago. We historically have many porcupines in and out of there, birds. So it's really nice to have a dedicated space that we can use to quarantine incoming animals, that we can use for hospitalization care and for emergencies, because we have been getting so much extreme weather in the last couple of years that it's nice to have a spot. So just kind of dedicated housing is one thing that is really exciting about this space. And then there's the actual hospital bit, which is laid out to really give us space to have students. So we've previously not really been able to accommodate the long list of students that want to come and spend time at Elmwood doing, fourth year clinical rotations, and, not even having offices, sitting often on like little folding stools. We didn't have any place to put them. So now we've got large rooms with some technology to help facilitate teaching. There's their own little office area that, we can start to schedule externs, which I think providing veterinary training in exotic animal medicine is really important, because even if you just do cats and dogs, at some point somebody's going to show up with an injured squirrel or an injured bird, or they're going to need help with a chicken. So giving people, a little bit of hands-on training is something that I'm very interested in, as is Dr. Clabbers, our associate vet. So we're excited to be able to host them here.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's going to make a big difference in some of those lives, because I know especially Penn right now is not doing really anything with exotics.
No, they're not, which is a disappointing thing as a graduate, that they just haven't invested in that program. We've been working with their anesthesia residents for the last, 3 or 4 years, because they also need exotic animal training to sit for boards. We do a lot of work with their pathology service, and then we use their field service all the time. So, we love them, but we do wish they had a more robust, commitment to exotic animal training and teaching.
Yeah, I'm sure Zoe has no thoughts on that.
Yep, no thoughts. No thoughts for the podcast.
So, you mentioned porcupines. And I realized this.
I love porcupines.
I know you love porcupines. And also, Elmwood Park Zoo is known for porcupine breeding. Like, y'all are really good at it. I was down at the North Carolina Zoo.
Yes.
And
they're taking our young little male this week. He's packing his little bags.
And they brought it up. They were like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Elmwood Park Zoo. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like my heart zoo. And they're like, they're so good at porcupine breeding. And I was like, I knew that, but I didn't know that like everyone knew that. So
we're hoping to do better this year. We had kind of a slow season. But we do have animals that are here on loan from the Utica Zoo and from the North Carolina Zoo to breed with our males.
So what what makes this place good at that? Why?
I have no idea.
Is it the water?
It's always maybe. We've always had an interest in breeding porcupines. Some of it is just a willingness to try. The males do get a little bit particular about what they're looking for, and often need to get separated out from the ladies after breeding season because they can be a bit of a nuisance.
That's true of most males.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it.
I'll own that.
So we have a lot of spaces where we can put ornery breeding male porcupines out of the season. We did have an opportunity to do a hand rearing of one who's getting ready to actually breed for the first time this year, Pokey. He's now 5, and we love him so much. So we're really into porcupines. I love them. I think they're just really interesting animals. Guests really are interested in them. And we love our porcupines. And Elmwood's a small zoo, and it's nice to have a couple of AZA programs where we can really, make a difference, and where we can provide some contribution, whether it's, to breeding animals or to just helping out other facilities. I'm the veterinary advisor for the porcupine species survival plan. And, it's a very active SSP program. And we get, 2 or 3 requests almost weekly about, housing recommendations, medical, questions. So it's a nice program to be involved in.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I love that this zoo is known for that. It's such a weird little thing. I was so excited when they brought it up in North Carolina.
That's great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, I am curious before we move on from that, just because I've learned from talking to some people that sometimes animals, will breed best in normal conditions. And sometimes it's almost like they need weirder, sparse things. So is there anything special that y'all have to do for porcupines, or just let them go?
I guess, yeah. So we've always just let them go. We've had a breeding male. His name is Spork. He's produced many an animal in the population.
Many tongs.
Yes. Well, and now the keepers have started naming all of his offspring after some sort of kitchen implement. So last year was Lemon Fork. He's now down at Dallas. And then this year is Griddle.
Nice.
And Griddle is going to North Carolina.
Nice.
So yeah, he's not needed any sort of help or encouragement. He just needs access to the ladies during the right time of year. With it being Pokey's first year meeting a female, we'll see how he goes. But I'm guessing he's just like his dad, and he won't need any help.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I bring it up because I was at a facility that's really good at breeding sloths. And the reason they're good at it is that they have this great lush habitat that their sloths live in on exhibit. And then in the back, when it's breeding time, it's nothing. A dog kennel with a tree branch going out and a tree branch going down. And that is where all of the breeding takes place.
Happens. Yes. There's a facility that does a lot with sea duck breeding down in Maryland. And it's the same thing. They're super sparse habitats, and it gives, that's what they focus on. So there's nothing else to do.
Yeah. I find that fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's interesting with sloths. Obviously you have to balance out their welfare needs during the year, with whatever that habitat change looks like during breeding. But no, we don't make any adjustments for porcupines or for a peccary, which is another species that we breed quite
well.
We did have a little surprise. Yeah, we had a little surprise that may be the first reported case of a postpartum estrus in a peccary, because she got pregnant about 3 weeks after she had her last litter.
Wow!
So we didn't really plan for that.
Yeah, a lot of little pecklets running around here.
Yeah.
And peccaries, I think, are a species a lot of people probably don't know about. They're not super popular. So can you give kind of an overview of peccaries for people listening? Sure.
So a peccary is kind of a cousin to your other traditional pigs and exotic suids. There are a couple of different species of peccaries. We manage the Chicoan peccaries at Elmwood, which is the most endangered of the peccaries. More commonly, there are collared peccaries or javelinas, and they are actually invasive in some parts of the United States.
I did not know that javelinas are peccaries.
Yes.
I've seen many a javelina.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So the Chicoans are are struggling. Their population is struggling. There are some conservation groups down in South America that are, trying to establish some captive propagation and release procedures. But we view the population in AZA zoos as kind of an assurance population that, should genetics ever be needed, we may be in a position to provide animals.
Especially here, since y'all just popping them out.
We are popping them out. Our breeders are now very well represented genetically. But it's another really good AZA program. It's very well managed, and we work closely with the Beardsley Zoo up in Connecticut.
Love them.
We just sent them up our male a couple months ago, thinking that he had not yet bred the female again, but turns out he did. And hopefully they'll be having some offspring soon. But they're great animals. We've come a long way with them at Elmwood. When I started, we used to manage them as a kind of a code red high threat level animal, which is pretty common practice for the collared peccaries, but not so much for the Chicoans, they're just not aggressive animals. They're very smart and they're very food motivated. But, we were able to transition them to a point where the staff does actually go in with them free contact and can do a lot of, positive reinforcement training. We can get weights on them voluntarily. Some of them are trained for hand injections. So just a great group of animals to work with.
Nice. Very cool. And I think it's funny. I think certain zoos, I've kind of noticed just like we'll get a reputation for like a species and then it just keeps going.
Sure.
Like y'all were known for Joni, the peccary, who was just, wonderful.
Yeah,
and everyone loved Joni. And then Joni passed on, an old girl, it happens. And it's like, you would think like, oh, okay, well, Joni was the famous one. So peccaries are going to fade now when people think of Elmwood Park Zoo. And instead y'all become the breeding hub of peccaries. And, it's interesting.
Yeah, we're committed to the species. Several of our board members are really interested in us continuing and really like getting updates about surprise litters on the weekends. So it's a great species to work with. And
Nice.
We're happy to have them.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love how they literally, their legs don't look like they should support their bodies.
No, they're like
just
little twigs.
Little twigs, yeah.
Yeah, and they run around. run.
You watch it and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. I see it happening, but it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, very cool. Zoe, do you have...
She's just been sitting there quietly.
Hoping I would forget that you were
forgot.
here.
Yeah.
I have not forgotten you yet.
Good.
So do you have any questions about anything? So we did get to come here before all of this officially opened. Thank you, Michele. Mm-hmm. And tour the vet hospital and the new entrance area and all of the important things and see all of the cool animals there now. So I was curious if you had any questions about anything that you saw or just wanted to, ask Michele anything.
I probably should have prepared for this.
I mean, I warned you and you went,
Yeah,
I thought that was you preparing. Maybe it was you panicking.
But then I also was working and then sleeping. And now here I am.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
What if I told you scientists discovered 100 new species in the deep ocean?
Why did crocodiles survive extinction?
Megalodon. How did it go extinct?
Hey, it's me, Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist. You might know me from Joe Rogan's podcast or my various TV shows like Extinct or Alive and Shark Week. Join me and my friends as we dive into the wild world of animal anomalies and everything wildlife. Don't miss out. Click here to uncover these mind-blowing animal mysteries.
And this is why we edit. Although all that crap's staying in.
That's, of course, as it should.
But then you can cut out the long pause afterwards while I think about it.
That's what I do.
We mentioned it before briefly, but you guys are getting a CT scan, which is very exciting, and you'll be able to do a lot with it. Can you talk about kind of why CTs are great and what we'll be able to do with it?
Sure. So yes, CTs are great. They're great for a couple of reasons. One, they provide just really excellent image quality. And then they're also a lot faster than taking a full set of x-rays. And given that, most of our animals have to be under general anesthesia to take x-rays, doing anything to sort of cut down that time is going to be helpful for us. The first time we did a CT here at Elmwood was with our female jaguar, Inca. She had a long history of a dental problem and had a procedure done. I think it was like 2015 or 2016 before I was at the zoo, and we wanted to do a follow-up to see, what was needed. And the dentist that we were working with out of Chadsford, he actually brought a portable CT that some very nice person brought on a trailer, and we just sort of wheeled it in. And we were able to scan her whole head in less than 2 minutes, whereas taking a set of dental radiographs would have taken at least 20. And then she ended up needing to have one of her canines extracted. And so her total anesthesia time was almost 5 hours. So adding any time to that, just for imaging is something we would want to try to avoid. And then it just gives you information that an x-ray can't on, spinal conditions, age-related changes. It's much more sensitive for picking up, tumors and other types of cancers or masses. That we're really looking forward to it. It's just a lot more sensitive. X-ray still has a good place and will still be something we use regularly. But this kind of 3D image that you can get from a CT has already been very helpful in just the few cases we've done with it so far.
Mm-hmm. And you brought up working with a dentist and bringing them in. There's a lot of collaboration in zoo medicine in general with specialists like that. Do you think that having kind of the new hospital and new space will allow you to do more with that, with bringing people in and helping with the animals here?
Because they can fit in the room.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so they can fit in the room. They can bring friends who can also fit. We've been really lucky over the years. We work with John Lewis, who's now down at VDS in Chadsford. We've worked with many of the doctors at Metropolitan, some at Blue Pearl, some at Penn, and it's very hard to take animals off site. When we need to take a screech owl to the ophthalmologist, that's not a huge deal. But when we need to take a big animal off-site or a potentially dangerous animal, where they have to be under anesthesia to just move them, being able to bring the specialists to us is something that, we're really looking forward to being able to do more. We rely on surgeons, we rely on oncologists, we rely on ophthalmologists, dentists, small and large animal specialists, anesthesiologists. So having the focus of the care being actually at Elmwood, it's better for animals because it'll shorten their overall anesthesia or treatment times. It's safer because we don't have to move them off site. And then it'll allow our guests to be able to actually watch what goes into the care that they get. So I'm very excited to, now it should really just be kind of MRI-based activities that we need to take animals off site for, which thankfully are few and far between.
Yeah. Cool.
I think I should get a CT while I'm here. My back hurts.
Yeah.
Probably one of
Now that you're on display, I can never do that legally. That's just not a thing. Not a thing. But in theory, sure, it is for humans. So
that's really funny. Crap, something you said just triggered a question in me, and then I made a dumb joke instead. I'm good at
Was
doing
it about the hospital being open to the public and
Yes.
people watching her do stuff?
Well done. Do you want to ask that one, or do you want me to ask it?
How do you feel about the hospital being open to the public so people can watch you do stuff?
ooh, so I don't mind at all. We did a couple since our hospital, as I've mentioned, was a tiny closet. We've never brought a jaguar into our old clinic because the table wasn't big enough. So there's really no point. So at least since I have been at the zoo, we've been doing all of our jaguar exams up in the jaguar building. And we did a handful of exams on both, Inca and Zion jaguar and on our 2 cougars when we had them in the day room, which is viewable by the public. We did a couple procedures during COVID, so the zoo was closed, so you couldn't see it. But we did do some test procedures, just kind of making sure that we were capable of existing under those conditions. And it's really amazing how quickly you're not bothered by people. For me, the most important thing is if we're doing something that is sensitive, that we have a member of our interactive team out there to talk to guests about it. We do have some audio capabilities in the new space that will probably roll out, next year, where we could do, kind of presentation style things. But I really want to make sure that our whole team gets fully into the space, that we get comfortable, and that our focus continues to be animal care, and that the educational bits are just kind of nice features, but will never, take precedent over actual animal care. But no, I think we'll get used to it very quickly, and just having the commissary be open and operational for the last couple of weeks. Even the commissary team is like, oh yeah, it's so cool. People just seem really into what we're doing, and they want to watch, and they wave and they smile. So I think it's a really important way to engage with the people that come here. Not just about our zoo, but about zoos in general.
One thing that surprised me is doing, some of the volunteer work that I do at Aquarium of Niagara. I'm on a stage, or I'm in front of a large, group of people, and I'm quite used to being on stage, obviously. But which actually I think makes it more surprising, not just that I'm comfortable with it, but that I don't even realize the people are there when I'm doing animal stuff and focus on the animals. I have seen pictures of myself like interacting with our sea lions and stuff, and they take these amazing photos. And then I realize that all around both levels of the pool, I'm being watched, and I did not know there was a soul there. Like, it's amazing. And especially for someone who my literal job includes reading and responding to audiences and like trying to react and change, I'm always hyper aware when I'm on stage of what is going on with the audience. So the fact that they fade in the background, even for me, is like really surprising, but makes sense. I am curious though, vet med, things go bad.
Oh yeah.
Is there a limit? Is there a level? If you're doing a standard procedure and something starts to go wrong, can you drop curtains, or is it all going to be public?
No, we have shades. We are hoping to not actually need to use them. It's more of a contingency for just the staff. We do occasionally have things that, during an exam, we discover a really big problem, that warrants euthanasia. And it's important that the staff have time to react to that in the moment, and that they can have, whatever time they need to say goodbye and to grieve and to not feel like they are on display. If something happens and, blood squirts up on the ceiling, like that is part of our daily operation. And, these are wild animals that we work with. We don't have the benefit of getting, pre-anesthetic blood work like you do with your cat or your dog before you, take them in for surgery. So we do often find things that we didn't know about going in. That's part of why we do routine care for them, is to, develop a better understanding of their health over periods of time. But, surprises are going to come up. Having that, paid staff member on our interactive team that can sort of troubleshoot with guests and explain what they're seeing, is important. But I guess we won't really know until we have our first situation arise, to know how quickly I will run over there and hit those shades.
Fair.
But I mean, we will probably do things that just have the shades closed, because it's more important that we're providing the care and that, the staff have the support that they need, then guests can see what's going on. But some of that will be a learning opportunity for us.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool. You have been here since, would you say 2019?
2017.
2017. Okay.
7 years.
I'm a good listener. Okay.
7
so
years.
7 years. And I feel like in 7 years, I mean, we kind of made the joke that this is Michelmwood Park Zoo. And obviously...
It's so funny. I haven't heard that. Now I want some sort of t-shirt.
Yes, obviously. But,
My boss will be thrilled.
I was going to say, but amazing team here. And it's all, I know that. Everyone knows that. But you do have a rather large role here. Like, you're not just the veterinarian, but as you mentioned, you're in charge of all of the animal-y stuff. So you have keepers under you and, education and all that stuff as well. What was your, how did that happen? And how did you grow into all of that? And has it been graceful, or has there been some growing pains?
There's growing pains each and every day. So I started as a part-time veterinarian here, really just to provide some coverage, particularly with bird things, because I am a bird person at heart.
Bird nerd.
And then I was the zoo's first full-time veterinarian and was the only veterinarian up until December 2023 when Colleen was hired. And being a solo veterinarian is not something that people generally want to do, because you are on call 24/7, kind of no matter what you're going in to deal with whatever the problem was. And it's just not conducive to a good quality of life for veterinarians, which is why fewer and fewer of them want to be solo vets. So I wanted to move into, a position that allowed me to still do veterinary things, because I do like that, but to also encourage the zoo to hire a full-time clinical vet so that there would be more than one of us with the word, doctor in her name, that could balance out each other's, personal lives a little bit. And then during COVID, the zoo made a number of staff changes, and one of them was, moving me into a curatorial position, for which I didn't have a lot of experience with. I'd done some work at a captive facility, where we were breeding a lot of endangered species. But I actually really liked it. I really like working more closely with the keepers. Their input is really essential to making decisions about habitats and animal introductions and care and welfare. And then it just sort of evolved from there. And then kind of the missing piece was the education department. And as we are looking to grow and expand, I think having a structure that provides redundancy is just important for people to have a work-life balance. So, ultimately we will end up with, hopefully at least one more veterinarian, some sort of general curatorial collection manager type and a director of education. But I'll be there to balance out those positions so that those individuals can actually take time off, and so that I can take time off. And then knowing where the zoo is with our master plan, a big part of my job right now is actually project management, is, making sure that we're building things in a way that makes sense for, our current facility as well as where we want to go in the future. And it's a fairly specialized set of conditions that we require for, building animal habitats. So it's not something that's easily translated to other people to just pick up. So yeah, and then very hopeful that we will hire some additional staff to support, where we're going in the next 2 or 3 years, just with the next projects down the road.
Yeah, very cool. I don't know a great way to ask this, and I apologize. Anyone who listens is quite used to that. But, again, qualification is that I'm a drummer. So, this is going to be a bad example because I know that animal welfare would always come first, but it's the best I can think of. But so do you ever find that your roles sometimes, you almost have a conflict? And the example that I can think of would be you have a big meeting, but you have a sick animal. Now, obviously, you're always going to the sick animal, but that kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's some of that just goes back to the overall culture of the zoo. So our zoo director has basically instructed me to ignore any of his requests that are inappropriate. He doesn't always know that he can't, touch this or do that. And we've had numerous instances where I've needed to pull an animal off exhibit because of a health thing. And it's I closed the giraffe feeds a couple of years ago. That was a good time. Especially when I saw the actual budget numbers about that, so I have a lot of support from the zoo director and from the board, that, animal care comes first, and that, it's their job to deal with whatever the financial implications are or whatever the guest experience, concerns are. When we took the giraffes off exhibit was obviously because of one of Gerald's many, many health issues.
Oh, Gerald.
I think it was 2021 Gerald health issue. They had to be in the barn for probably 2 weeks, and we had guests, write get well cards for Gerald because we wouldn't split the herd up to, put 2 outside for feeds and to keep him in the barn by himself. And it's easy to make those decisions when people are supportive.
Right.
So, we have surprise baby peccaries. Yay. I'm going to close the path for a week. Sorry. Just to give them some space to get used to their new situation. In theory, there could be a lot of conflicts, but I feel like I can still be the veterinarian, and that, the other aspects will just be supported by others on the team.
That's awesome. I really like Al. He's a good guy. I've met him a bunch of times now, and I've always felt like the zoo was in good hands.
Yes.
Not just the whole leadership team, but in particular, I remember like when I was here during the flood and stuff, like he was just very hands-on and very helpful and thanking everyone. And just, you don't get that a lot, especially in moments of, problems. Sure. It's a lot easier to afterwards be like, great job, guys.
Sure.
But it was very noticeable to me.
Yeah, a lot of our leadership team have been in animal exhibits, clearing snow, dealing with mud or floods or down trees. We have a very hands-on team, which is great.
Yeah, that is really, really cool. And then I think it is time for our last 2. So is there a conservation organization you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yes.
Completely just,
Today, I would like to give a shout out to the Chaco Center for Conservation and Research, CCCI. They do a lot of really great work that benefits Chaco and peccaries.
Nice. Very cool. And then it is time.
It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
Today's story doesn't actually involve poop, but it was when I was doing a lot of wildlife rehabilitation. I was volunteering for a facility down in Delaware, and they had a bunch of frostbitten pelicans come in that needed care. So I went down to help with that. I'd never worked with pelicans before, but had done a lot of, supportive care for different types of birds. So I figured it wouldn't be that much different. And when you tube feed a pelican, you have to really shove your whole arm inside their pouch to get past the glottis to make sure that they don't accidentally aspirate on the food. And after doing that, like 20 or 30 times, I remember getting in my car at the end of my shift and just not being able to handle what the smell was. And then I realized that it was me.
Yeah, I could see that being
pelicans.
Gross. Pelicans are weird
weird animals. So it was a great time. Had a great time.
I love it. I also like that all of the animals that we spoke about today start with the letter P.
Interesting.
Yeah, porcupines, panda,
peccary, pelicans.
Yeah.
My daughter's name is Phoebe.
Wow, I'm noticing a trend here. Interesting.
All right, I'll have to think about that.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much, John and Zoe, for coming to visit.
Yay!
Okay, so admittedly, I end most of these interviews by saying yay, but the fact that Zoe and I did it perfectly in unison without looking at each other was kind of ridiculous. But hey, that's who we are. And more importantly, that was who Michele is. And just so grateful to have such a cool, wonderful person in my life. And, like I mentioned, Michele invited Zoe and I to the kind of preview opening for friends and family. And we got to see the new hospital and the new commissary and even honestly spend probably way too much money at the new gift shop. Also, for any of you coffee nerds like me, they have a coffee shop in the new Welcome Center now, which is really, really exciting. So yeah, Elmwood Park Zoo. Impressing the heck out of me at a whole new level now, and they're just going to keep growing, which is absolutely incredible.
So before I go, I do want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, and Kevin Williams, and of course to all of my patrons. Thank you all so much for supporting this podcast. And I'd also like to remind y'all that the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.